Ours on 7.
They'll hear me then. They'll hear me then.
Gosh.
Alrighty, I have 7 o'clock. If we don't make sure our microphones are on, and I will call the meeting to order and ask that the clerk please call roll.
Mr. Jim Benaj.
Here.
Mr. Jeff Elsoff.
Here.
Mr. Jeff Hawes.
Here.
Ms. Betty Martine.
Here.
Mr. Justin Smith.
Here.
We have a quorum. Want to welcome everybody to our March 19th regularly scheduled meeting of your Bel Aire City Council. With all of our meetings, it's my honor to welcome Pastor Joel Schulter back up here. I saw him earlier. There he is, who will begin our meeting with a moment of prayer.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for all you've done for us. We pray as these people come together to make decisions, Lord, I just pray that our own personal desires and wants and needs would be pushed aside, and what you would want and the needs of the people, the needs of the city, the needs of Bel Aire would be put first, Lord. It's so easy to let our selfishness come in the way, and I just pray that we would not succumb to that we would think about others first. Lord, we love you. We just pray you give us a spirit of civility and unity. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Okay, now if you all please rise and join us in the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll go ahead and jump right in with tonight's agenda, and we'll start with the consent agenda, and that simply consists of our minutes from our last regularly scheduled meeting of our City Council on March 5th.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I move to approve the consent agenda as listed and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
First and second. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, next is appropriations, appropriation ordinance 2019-06. This is in the amount of $546, $853.26. And for this, we paid our annual property and casualty insurance. That was a cost at $100,000, so that's one of the reasons why it's a little bit higher this year. We also made a payment to MKEC for the woodlawns and villas at Prestwick. Sorry, Betty, I know I'm pushing over here.
It's okay.
This is what happens when your mayor forgets his glasses. At Prestwick Engineering, that was for $80,000. And lastly, we paid Westar $6,800 for our monthly street light bill. So those are three of the things that are in the appropriations ordinance, which is why it made it a little bit higher than normal this time.
Mr. Mayor, I'll
Yes.
make a motion to approve the appropriations ordinance 1906.
Second.
First and second, are there any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next, item 8 is proclamation for National Service Recognition Day, and I've asked our council president, Jeff Hawes, if he would read that this evening.
To the citizens of Bel Aire, Kansas, greetings. Whereas service to others is a hallmark of the American character and central to how we meet our challenges. And whereas the nation's cities and counties are increasingly turning to national service and volunteerism as a cost-effective strategy to meet county needs. And whereas national service expands economic opportunity by creating more sustainable, resilient communities and providing education, career skills, and leadership abilities for those who serve. And whereas national service participants increase the impact of the organizations they serve, both through their direct service and by managing millions of additional volunteers. And whereas national service represents a unique public-private partnership that invests in community solutions and leverages non-federal resources to strengthen community impact and increase the return on taxpayer dollars. And whereas national service participants demonstrate commitment, dedication, and patriotism by making an intensive commitment to service, a commitment that remains with them in their future endeavors. And whereas the Corporation for National and Community Service shares a priority with city and county officials nationwide to engage citizens, improve lives, and strengthen communities, and is joining with the National League of Cities, National Association of Counties, Cities of Service, and mayors and county officials across the country for the Mayor and County Recognition Day for National Service on April 2nd, 2019. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Jeff Hawes, Council President of Bel Aire, Kansas, do hereby proclaim April 2nd, 2019 as a National Service Recognition Day and encourage residents to recognize the positive impact of national service in our community and thank those who serve and to find ways to give back to their communities.
Thank you for doing that. We'll move on to city requested appearances. I'll go ahead and sign that and pass it down.
He's got to sign it.
Yeah.
No. Jeff has to sign
No, I just read it, but it's on there. So city requested appearances, I don't have any here, but we'll open it up to citizens' concerns. If there's anyone in the audience wishing to address council this evening on an agenda item, now's the time we open that up at every single one of our meetings. If anybody ever wants to address council, that's a good time to do it. So, but seeing none, we're going to move on to reports, and we'll start with council members. We're going to start with council member Elsoff.
I have no report, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Smith.
Mr. Mayor, I did attend the SCAC meeting this past Saturday. The main purpose of the meeting this month was really to review and adjust the bylaws and the continued consideration of the SCAC organization's purposes, and so that's the Sedgwick County Association of Cities, for anyone that may not know what SCAC is. During that meeting, some really good progress was made. The one interesting topic that I thought I would share is that organization really wants to broaden their scope a little bit to be more of an influencer of legislative policy and do more advocacy on behalf of the cities. And so with that, there was a discussion of raising the membership dues from $100 to $150 a year to fund a little bit of that. And so that's something that we should expect to see coming in the future. The other interesting thing that we might want to consider is a council body. The organization is moving to a one vote per city model, where they want one representative per city to be the designated voter at each meeting. And so we will probably need to appoint a voter and a secondary voter going forward.
Do you know when they're going to begin that?
It's actually already part of the bylaws. The organization just hasn't been functioning that way. And so it's effective immediately.
Gotcha.
So that's all I have. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Councilmember Martine.
Well, I had, there were 3 celebrities. One was our city attorney, Jackie. Had her picture in the paper since the last council meeting, and she's chairman of KPTS. The other ones were Jeff Hawes and Dee Ross were on TV regarding 254 after that large accident. And I attended the luncheon for the senior club. They went to Neighbors, and it's over on West 21st Street. And they are noted for their fried chicken. And I had the chicken fried steak, but it was so big I had to bring half of it home. And that's all I have, Mayor.
I appreciate it. Councilmember Benaj.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to thank Public Works for the work they did cleaning out storm sewers and such after the rains this last week, because that was there were some concerns there, and they did a good job. So thank you. Also, I want to thank our city manager, and he sent out an email. Thank you to several staff members for their help with the Interfaith Ministries feeding the homeless last Friday evening. So thank you to Ty and his wife Denise, and to Ted and his wife, and Amy, Melissa, Mary, Justin Smith and his wife Jessica, Tristan, Jackie, and Keith. And I think I got your whole list there. So, but thank you very much. It was very, very well organized, and I appreciate the city manager's help in getting that put together. So, I also attended the SCAT meeting, and I don't have anything to add to that. Mr. Smith did a fine job with that. So, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Councilmember Hawes.
Yeah, so the only thing I have is that we are having a K254 Corridor Development Association meeting this Friday, 12:30 here at City Hall. We are going to have a presentation about the about 254 and the traffic study. So hopefully we will get some information from that and kind of a consensus in moving forward and what we need to do. I know that Ashley Owen, who started the petition that was online from change.org, is planning on attending. So that would be nice to get some more citizen engagement in it too. So more to come on the next meeting from this meeting. So
Appreciate it. No formal report tonight. Only do want to remind citizens that coming up April 6th is our curbside cleanup. That's coming up so here pretty soon, and that's where Waste Connection is going to pass through the city. They're going to do it at one time, and all the items need to kind of be together out by the curb at 7 a.m. It's something that everyone can should take advantage of, and there on our website is a list of items that are accepted. So if you have something you're questionable about, I would strongly encourage you to look at that. Also on our website, some information on severe weather. You know, so far we had a lot of rain one day. We've kind of had some showers, but we are entering severe weather season. Knock on wood, hopefully we'll miss all that this year, but do want to just make sure that everyone is aware and encourage people to have a plan at home put together. It's always a good time to kind of go over that. And then lastly, I just wanted to, just an observation on, seems like a lot of people have been posting on social media in Bel Aire about lost dogs and found dogs. And anybody knows me knows that I'm a big softie when it comes to our furry friends. So we just encourage everybody to we do require dogs to be registered, and that's also a really good way to get your animal returned to you safely if it's found right away to you. So I would encourage everybody to do that. And with that, I'm going to move on to our city attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do not have a report this evening.
Okay. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to expand on a couple items that you touched on. First, next week, March 26th, here at City Hall, we're actually having a severe safety weather class from 6:30 to 8:30. Sedgwick County Emergency Management puts that on, and I know our police staff are usually attend as well, but it's open to the citizens, so if you want to come in and learn about storm spotting and those types of things, that will be next week here at City Hall. And then our first brush drop-off, that's a very successful program that we've got, will be April 13th. So we close down during the winter time, but that will start up April 13th, which is a Saturday from 9 to 1. We also have free mulch for citizens. What we'll do is we'll cut up or mulch up some of the trees and branches and stuff that come in, and people can come and pick that up. And then this year, the Public Works staff also created a compost pile. So if anybody wants some compost for their garden, that will be there as well, and it's free for anybody that would like that. And then, as the mayor had mentioned on social media, some of our citizens may have seen discussion about coyotes. And that is an issue we're having trouble with. It seems like as we continue to grow, the coyotes, there must be a pack or so that are living here in Bel Aire, and they're getting more and more comfortable with the citizens, and so we've had incidents where they've growled at people or came near people. Our police are aware of that. They're actually out trying to remedy the situation. So just want our citizens to be aware that is an issue, but we're trying the best we can to remedy the situation of those coyotes running wild. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, what was the date of the severe weather? I didn't catch it.
March 26th.
Thank you. And that was at 6:30?
Yes.
Okay. We'll move on to ordinances, resolutions, and final actions. And the first one to come before us tonight is a planned unit development, a PUD, if you will. the northwest corner there at 45th and Woodlawn, it's platted for PUD. The owner wants to make some changes to it and has such gone through the appropriate steps, which includes the Planning Commission for approval, who held a public hearing on February 12th. That took place at the Planning Commission meeting. After the hearing, the Planning Commission did vote to approve the PUD with certain conditions, and all that is there in your packet. And so this is a motion. We're looking at an ordinance authorizing a C2 on certain property there so it's revoking, repealing, and suspending the ordinance 600, which is adopted for the same. And Jackie, is there anything else you would like to add to that?
Mr. Mayor, Planning Commission went through this a couple of times. Just briefly, the ordinance 600 was passed before. It didn't work for that area. We've got owners there who are wanting to develop that area, and so that's why typically we wouldn't have an ordinance to repeal. But that PUD didn't work for the area. There's a new PUD that encompasses the uses that will actually, better uses for the actual lot owners there.
Just a clarification, if you know, if anyone knows, Mr. Manager or anyone, but who owns the, I don't mean to say to name them, but as I understand this, only the north end of these lots is owned by this person or this company, and the south ends are still for sale, but they don't own them. Is that a correct statement? Because this covers more than what they own.
Correct. No, this does cover more than what they own, but the three owners are working in conjunction with one another to make sure. I think they've all worked with our Cobb Valley engineer to ensure that they, Tim Austin, thank you, I'm sorry, I went blank for a moment, to ensure that the uses are complementary and that the PUD allows everything that they would want. Although we have one owner represented here in our meetings, all the owners' interests have been addressed, and I would ask that Tim Austin would expand on that if you would like more information on that.
Okay. Well, I think it. Sorry. I just did want to commend Planning Commission or whoever came up with the idea to restrict the R5 to the west part of that. I think that that's appropriate to keep that away from the intersection. As a C1 as the intersection is probably much better, much more appropriate use for that land. So, thank you.
Councilman Martin.
Yes, I had a question for the attorney. I maybe misunderstood, but the people that own this property that is up there on the map, don't they own the L section also? That would be west of the billboards, back to where his fence was. Is that part of this property?
I would, from what they're saying, they're off camera nodding, so yes, the same people own it, but I would have to ask them to expand on that. I didn't memorize who owns what portion, but
is that part, the L part from the billboards, is that included in this?
I do know that the billboards are, one of the PUD requirements is that the billboards be taken down as soon as this present lease is over. So if you're... Wasn't
that lease for 99 years?
It's a term, we looked at it, it's a year to year, and once this year expires, it's...
Well, I just wanted, I don't have any preference, but I just wanted to make sure that that's what we were talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
Does anybody else have any other questions? And do you see Tim Austin is here, an engineer, and our staff as well. So if anybody has any questions.
Do we know when that lease expires on the billboard?
Do you know, Tim?
Tim Austin, called our engineer. The lease is a year-to-year lease, and the owners have committed to taking it down as soon as the current lease expires, which I believe is around this time next year. So it'll be
another year. Thank you.
Any other council members have questions? Appreciate you being here and available to answer those questions. So I will entertain a motion then.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance authorizing a C2 planned unit development on certain property located within the corporate city limits of Bel Aire, Sedgwick County, Kansas, and revoking, repealing, and superseding Ordinance 600 adopted for the same.
Second.
First and second. It is an ordinance, so it does call for a roll call. And this is one of those things with my glasses. I'm glad you corrected me that it said superseding and not suspending, because I think I mentioned that earlier going on. And we'll never make this mistake again. Yes. So we'll go down here alphabetically. Councilmember Benaj.
Aye.
Councilmember Elsoff.
Aye.
Councilmember Hawes.
Aye.
Councilmember Martine.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
I also vote in the affirmative. Motion passes. Okay, item B. This is an agreement with our neighbors at Elk Creek. The Bel Aire Land Bank owns a number of the lots that are currently in Elk Creek that were given to the land bank from certain builders over there. The city is not the developer, and as such falls under the covenants. The homeowner association has requested that the land bank / the city pay homeowners association dues. In order to eliminate such an expense, the city and the homeowner association has created this agreement for free irrigation water until the dues are made whole. Is there anything else I need to add to that?
I would just ask that the motion include final amendments, or final minor amendments to be approved by the city attorney, only because we haven't received their final signature.
Okay.
And I did get a message that they may have a minor question. So if it's a matter of moving the start date from January to February, I don't think that would be an issue for council, but if it were something substantial, we could bring it back to council.
Okay. So your recommendation is we go ahead, if it's the will of the council to approve it, to go and do that as opposed to tabling and delaying it another 3 or 4 weeks?
Yes.
Okay. Appreciate that recommendation.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I think this is a good agreement and a potential win-win for both organizations, and so I'll move to approve the agreement for water in lieu of HOA dues between the City of Bel Aire and the Villas at Elk Creek HOA, subject to further minor amendments by the city attorney, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
First and second. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, next, item C is the Utility Advisory Committee wanted to create the position of an honorary member. Our city attorney Jackie has worked with the committee to add this section to their bylaws. That was in our packet. So to have an honorary member, so like a non-voting member, but just I like that. It's nice if we can honor people that way.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the bylaws of the Bel Aire Utility Advisory Committee and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
First and second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, item D, and so everyone knows in the audience and at home, these items we have workshops in between our meetings, the second Tuesday of each month, where we spend considerable time going through and digesting a lot of these issues and talking them through. So while public comment usually isn't made there, but that is a good time where all those meetings are open to the public and online as well. So where we have gone through a lot of these items. But moving right along, item D is the home-based business license. Something we've been working on for a number of months now, and something that I'm happy to see on our agenda make it to this point so that we can be known as a business-friendly city. And this is certainly, we want to encourage all entrepreneurs, and we want to encourage people, if they want to have, whether it be a side hustle or business at their home, they follow the guidelines. But I think this removes a lot of things that may have kind of stood in the way of some people registering their business or doing that. So I'm really happy, and And I want to thank the Planning Commission, who for 6-7 months have really looked hard at these issues and spent a lot of time going through it to remove some of these things, still at the same time protecting the city and protecting businesses. Because and this was something that was very apparent at our workshop, was that all of us were in agreement that we want to be known as a business-friendly city. So I, again, want to thank the Planning Commission for that. But so the council, period governing body, actually requested that the Planning Commission review the zoning section relating to these home-based businesses. And like I said, there were a number of meetings. The Planning Commission then created this revised code that was shared at our last workshop, like I mentioned, on March 12th. There are just a few additional changes that we had, very minor after that time. And so after a few changes, the final code comes before us tonight via an ordinance. So this is something we can do and put into action.
Mr. Mayor, I echo the appreciation of the Planning Commission for doing this, putting this together. Because I stand to financially gain from this, I will abstain from voting on this.
Appreciate that. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'm very excited about this change. I think it's long overdue, and this is going to be great for the city of Bel Aire. Echo again the thanks to the Planning Commission. I attended a lot of those meetings, and they pored over the details of this and did an amazing job putting this together, and I really appreciate that. I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance concerning the amendment of Chapter 8, Section 1 of the zoning regulations of the City of Bel Aire, Kansas, all within the City of Bel Aire, Sedgwick County, Kansas, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
First, and we have 2 seconds. It is an ordinance, so this as well calls for a roll call vote. And as Councilmember Benage has stated, being a home-based business owner, he's going to recuse himself from this, so we'll have that in the records. He's already made his vote known by recusing himself, so we'll start with Councilmember Elsoff.
Aye. Councilmember
Hawes.
Aye.
Councilmember Martine.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
And I also vote the affirmative for that. So. Again, thank you, Planning Commission, and thank you, home-based businesses. This is cool. This is great. Okay, item E is something you may have read about in the last edition of the Breeze, and has been talked about at our council meeting earlier this month, and then extensively at our last workshop. And this is the exotic pet code for the exotic pet store that is residing in Bel Aire. We heard a request from the owner of the exotic pet store to display additional animals that are not allowed in our current codes. The council discussed the topic, and the current code, like I said at our March 12th workshop, we had some suggested language changes that are now in the ordinance form for approval. And basically, we went through this to make sure that there's safety in place and liability. This is a business. We just talked about being a business-friendly city, that wants to expand and approached the city to make these changes so that they can have this educational part of their business for that. So, is there anything else you need to add to that? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I had an opportunity to go and visit with this store this last Saturday with one of my grandchildren, and I did have a good talk with the manager. Sorry, his name slips my mind, but to expand upon some of our prior discussion, he actually has a primary, secondary, and tertiary containment plan for these animals. So that, I think, is a good step. We hadn't heard that discussion before, but that is their plan. So that, I think that's good. So anyway, I think this is a good thing to do. And so.
I'm glad you're able to make the trip over there. And that is, it's an educational experience in there.
Yeah, it is.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to acknowledge that the reason we're considering this change is as you had already mentioned, in the spirit of being business friendly, and this is one of those kind of detailed areas of something that's a little kind of outside of the regular issues that we might deal with as a body. But I think it's interesting. I think what was really important about this is it was made very clear that this business has education as a high priority. These people are passionate about what their business is, and I really appreciate that. I also have visited the store, and I've taken my children in there and experienced a lot of education in just the small amount of time we spent there. And I think this is something that we have looked at and discussed and hashed out as a council in our workshop in particular. And yeah, I think this is one small example of us really trying to do what we can to promote local businesses and entrepreneurship.
Fantastic. And I'll just echo some of the comments here I shared at the workshop, that I've been able to go into that business a couple times and made it well known. While I am not a fan of snakes and these types of animals, it was my granddaughter who turns 5 next month really was interested in learning, and she, just the time that they took to show. Obviously, they knew we weren't going to buy anything, but the education on it, chameleons and geckos, and it was neat. And that's a part of their mission. Obviously, is to sell and make money and be a business, and we want them to be a thriving business. We want every business to be in Bel Aire and thriving. That's just a little bias I have, but just the fact that they are there to also educate the public really stands out to me as well. So, any other questions or comments on item E here?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I move to approve an ordinance concerning the amendment of Chapter 7, Article 3 of the City Code of Bel Aire, Kansas, in connection with prohibited reptiles, educational displays, and pet stores, all within the City of Bel Aire, Sedgwick County, Kansas, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
First and second. So with the other two, this is also an ordinance, so it calls for a roll call vote. Councilmember Benaj.
Aye.
Councilmember Elsoff.
Aye.
Councilmember Hawes.
Aye.
Councilmember Martine.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
I also vote in the affirmative. So, alrighty. Item F is a server replacement. We're always looking at our computer hardware. That's actually one of the things that we've done this year. Is you've noticed a lot of improvements to our technology and our communications, and being able to be more transparent and reach out. But we're constantly looking at that as technology evolves, by the minute almost. It's not by the year anymore, by the minute. But we're looking at our computer hardware, and when it is time to make needed updates. And so right now, staff has identified the need to replace our server, and we have 3 quotes that are in our packet here. Paul Bush from OneSource is here to explain the needed update, and also to answer any questions. And I also learned recently that Councilmember Justin Smith has also reviewed the proposals, and with his background in IT and technology, I appreciate that, and we'll appreciate input on this as well from your IT experience. But are there any questions on this? Like I said, Mr. Bush is here from OneSource if need be. Or Mr. Lasher, if there's anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think Paul and Councilmember Smith could probably answer any questions better than I.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'll just say that from what I've seen, this server upgrade and replacement's long overdue and very necessary, and that this proposal, as it's put together, is a very cost-effective way to do the maintenance that's necessary here, and also take some steps to modernize some of the city's infrastructure that I'm really excited about. So.
And that's one of those things, a server is not something you want to wait until it fails and goes out to replace. And the fact that we are somewhat on borrowed time well, we're not somewhat, we are on borrowed time, and that this is overdue, and yeah, looking at updating the way bills can be paid and that, and bring us up. I think this is just another improvement that we're making to move our city forward, at least for that. But there are 3 bids here, and we've got one for basically $6,900, one for $7,200, and then one for $7,657. Then the installation, I was a little surprised to see that that's going to cost $4,400, but I know absolutely nothing about server installation, so I'm going to just probably not make any comment on that for that. But that is before that. Councilmember Smith, is which of these 3 would you recommend? And can I ask you to comment? I'm putting you on the spot, and I apologize for that. But is the installation price that?
Yeah, I mean, from my experience, the amount of labor that's required to do what's going to be done here, this is a very reasonable cost for that. There's a lot of work that goes into designing an infrastructure and then building it out once it's here. And so I believe the 3 different quotes that are before us are for the actual hardware side, 3 different hardware vendors, and staff has recommended the CDW quote just due to their prior experience and reliability with that vendor, even though it's maybe just slightly more expensive, but in some cases you get what you pay for, and so I'm inclined to go with the staff's recommendation there.
I'm talking $300 too for a server. Mr. Bush, can I ask you to come forward to the podium? I want to appreciate you being here. And One Source is under contract with the City of Bel Aire for our technology needs, so appreciate you being here tonight. What is the lifespan of a server?
Typically, we figure 4 to 5 years.
Okay. And how old is our current server?
That's about 5 years.
Okay. So we are at that time.
Yes, sir.
That's okay. And how long will the city, quote unquote, be down during the?
We actually do most of the migration after hours or on weekends.
Okay.
So from a staff perspective, there won't be any noticeable downtime. The only small difference will be when we move Summit, which is your main line of business application. But again, that's something that we'll coordinate with the city to do after hours, possibly like on a Friday afternoon.
Okay. So in this, I mean, obviously, the server, this is going to affect our internet, our email, or all that. So we'll have time for plenty of notice for that.
Correct. And one of the big parts of the move is we're actually planning on moving your email, which is currently hosted here in the city building, to Microsoft's Office 365 cloud. So that'll give you a lot more reliability and redundancy. Plus, when you guys lose internet or power for an extended period of time here in the building, you'll still have access to your email outside.
So we can act like it's 2019.
Yes, sir.
That was awesome. Okay.
So one request I have, if this is possible, to schedule it this way. We have meetings 3 times a month,
yes, sir.
And usually we get our packets Thursday or Friday, and so we're relying on that server for access to those packets.
Certainly.
So could we make it the Friday that we don't have a meeting that following Tuesday?
Yeah, to be honest with you, we're not. We're kind of lazy, so we calendar this kind of project as like a 45 to 60-day project. So we have plenty of time in that window to schedule it so it doesn't interrupt your workflow.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Once we make the motion and accept these bids, whichever bid, how long will it be before you get the equipment and start putting it in?
Typically from the time Ted places the order to any one of these vendors, it's a week or 10 days before it arrives. We get everything put together and then start the project from there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. And from the audience, Ted Henry, CFO, did make the comment that CDW, this is what staff is recommending. We heard Councilmember Smith's comments on that, does have everything in stock. So that's a good thing to know. Any other questions for Mr. Bush? Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to accept a CDWG bid of $7,200 and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Do we have to do this too?
Oh, do we need to make a motion for the installation cost as well? That's fine. I would amend my motion to accept the bid from CDWG for $7,200 and the installation cost of $4,461.25 and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
First and a second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Councilmember Smith, for your input there. All right, item G, something that we talk about quite a bit at our March 12th workshop. Ann Stevens, our city engineer, presented the governing body with the list of needed street improvements. The list included total replacements as well as preservation work. And we talked a lot about the pros and cons about doing some preservation of some maybe streets that aren't so bad right now, which will save a whole bunch of money in the long run, so we can save them from getting to a certain level, if you will. But the list, as you, I'm sure it'll be no surprise to anyone, far exceeded our $500,000 budget. And again, our $500,000 budget is a pretty significant increase over even just last year and the year before that. So council is recognizing that street improvements is something that we want to continue to look at so that we can continue to have that maintenance. Now, I'll tell you, just driving around some of our neighboring cities and talking to some other mayors and other communities, we are not alone. And actually, I've had some comments that our streets are far better than others. So I thought that, but we certainly can do better for that. So council agreed, or we discussed, said at the, we don't take binding action in our workshop, but the first project that we should look at should be preservation. Ann Stevens is here to answer any of the questions, or if you want to talk about some of the work and location, she certainly can do that. If we'd like for that.
Mr. Mayor, I guess I have a couple questions I'd like to ask.
Ann, if you can come forward, thank you.
And just to give us a little perspective here on what we're doing, could you give us what the estimated total length of roads that exist in Bel Aire?
I could have done that on the workshop last week when I had my spreadsheet, but okay. No, we have miles and miles of roads.
I guess that's one of the challenges here, is that we do have a lot of roads, a lot of neighborhoods, some newer, some older, and we're tasked with in this body to strike that balance between rebuilding the roads we know are broken, maintaining the roads that are somewhat newer, and this is a part of that. This isn't doing everything that we want in one fell swoop, but this is a big chunk of attacking that. And I think I can speak for the council in saying that we have tried to be very proactive in pursuing both avenues of preserving what we got and also trying to rebuild the seriously damaged and under duress sections of the road. And I just want to make it clear, we mentioned these things in our workshop, but I know not everybody who sees these council meetings watches the workshop, so I just wanted to reiterate that we're looking at the city as a whole and trying to address the concerns over the roads and their status and how best to spend the money that we do have and that money that we've allocated for these projects, how best to balance that out. And I just want the citizens to know that we're trying to do our due diligence here in spending the money and spreading it to various areas that we rely on the city staff like Ann and her work. She's got a list of all the streets and various repairs on streets that need to be done, and this list only is a piece of that list. And we just, the challenge here is to make those priorities. And so I hope the citizens can at least see we're trying to do make the best use of the money that we have to spend on road repairs here.
Appreciate that. I'll tell you, some people may ask, why are we doing preservation first? Well, as we've learned and as we saw with the proposals, preservation is a whole lot cheaper than rebuilding. And yeah, we do have a couple roads that are in need of complete rebuilds. I guess kind of the silver lining is they're really not going to get much more worse than they are right now. Whereas, with these we can spend a lot less preserving so that, future councils 10 years, 15 years from now aren't looking at major bills on those roads and going, doggone it, why didn't they do these for, when $6,000 can buy you, years and years more for that continuing. And just for those at home and the audience here, what we're looking at was a total of $161,402 of our $500,000 budget. So what was kind of discussed and the consensus that we came up with at the workshop was that we would look at this first, and then certainly we want to have some money. We're going to continue to do street repairs and road repairs. So this is not the end. I think that's what I really want to point out. This is not it for 2019. There's more to come, but we're looking at asphalt repairs from K254 and Rock Road, some concrete work there at Rock Road and Elk Creek, and asphalt and concrete repairs on Danbury, Stratford, there to Odessa, a couple other places there in Stratford, as well as a place on Parrington and Farmstead Court, also some places there on Rodeo, and then looking at one there, Lasalle Heights, kind of the Central Park there too. That's kind of one of the bigger ones on here. But for a lot of these asphalt concrete repairs, we're talking $3,000 to $7,000 that can buy a number of years of good use out of that road, where it's not going to, eventually every road needs to be repaired, but this pushes that down and keeps it safe for a long time. But again, just to kind of reiterate, this is not the end. This is what we want to do right
Mr.
now.
Mayor.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but these asphalt concrete repairs that we're planning on doing is getting these roads ready to basically to get them to the shape where we can do preservation things on them instead of letting them go to waste. And is that correct?
It is one of the first steps that needs to be taken to get to that preservation treatment. Most of the items that are identified on this list, with the exception of rodeo, are just simply patchwork and curb repairs. The city staff will come back in later and do the crack sealing, and if there are thermal cracks, the wider cracks, we will go ahead and take care of those, but we don't have the capabilities to do the curb repairs. Right. So that's what most of these are. But yes, it is taking the first step to the preservation.
And I just wanted to point out that on these roads, this is not it for these roads as well. This is getting these roads into the shape where we can then make them good.
Mr. Mayor, this list also doesn't include all of the mini repairs that I know staff is planning to make this year, and provided us that list at the workshop, and it's also quite extensive. So just echo your comments that this is just the start of what we're going to do for this year.
Also, a question to Ann, maybe you can answer. There are two vendors to do this work. Is that correct? PPG and ProSeal?
That is correct. PP&J will be doing the asphalt and concrete repair work. ProSeal will be doing what's called the reclamite, which is basically an oil seal that's going over the Central Park, Elk Creek, Lasalle Heights, and Rock Spring subdivisions.
So this motion needs to include both of those
Yes,
vendors,
sir.
right? Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to accept the quote from ProSeal and PP&J at a cost of $161,402.64 and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? If I like it to be called rodeo, I'm just saying. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
We're not in Vegas.
I know. Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
It is Beverly Hills.
All righty. Item H, final agenda item this evening is a cell tower referral. There are some updates that need to be made to our codes that are based on legislative changes at the federal level that are kind of passed down then. So our city attorney is working on those changes and will take a proposed revision to the Planning Commission for their input and recommendations. So following those kind of necessary steps that we've got to do to get in line with what the federal government is telling us with all of those for. And then the final revision will come back to council in April for our approval, but we do need a motion to send this to the Planning Commission, what we kind of discussed again in our last workshop.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I move to approve a resolution to direct the Bel Aire Planning Commission to review proposed city zoning regulations related to wireless telecommunication facilities to effectively comply with the FCC ruling 18-133 requirements and return a recommendation to council no later than April 12th, 2019.
Second.
First and second, any other questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Discussion of future issues. I don't have any at this point. Would like to ask council for an executive session for attorney-client privilege, inviting in the city manager and the city attorney, and I think, what, 15, 20 minutes maybe? 20? Yes. Well, yeah, the motion we need to return. It is 7:51 at this time. Can I entertain that motion?
So moved.
We have first. Is there a second? We have first and second. Go into executive session at 7:51, meaning that we will return here at 8:11. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Wait, I didn't do the math right, did I? 7:51 to 8:11.
That's right.
That's right, okay.
Were they swapped?
Council just had an executive session where no binding action was taken. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting back to order. Is there any other business to come before council this evening?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
First and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.